All right guys, what's going on? I'm excited to be back here today because I'm at Target Shooting Solutions yet again with the Walther PDP, and this is versus everybody. The PDP versus everybody and how it compares to some of the other really popular handguns. Now, in my last video, the Walther PDP versus the SK, there were some comments about, oh, well, you know, how does it stack up with some of the other guns like the P10C, different things. So I was like, well, let me see if I can't get a bunch of the other range guns we got down here at TSS and try to just do a quick comparison on, again, most of the guns that you're gonna be looking for in a carry gun that are out there to see what you might like best and if the new PDP is the way to go. All right guys, so these are the options I got here today. This is PDP versus pretty much everybody. So we got the FN 509, we got the P10C, we got the SK, we got the Glock 19, everybody's favorite, which is sort of outdated at this point. You got the Glock 43X, the CZ75 P01. That's going to be a much heavier gun than everything here, all steel, but still in the same size point. You got the P365, the P365 XL, the HELLCAT, and the SHEILD 2.0. Now obviously some of these guns come with different options not all shown here, like the SHEILD coming with the laser, makes it a little bigger, things like that, make some of the mags or the extended magazine versions. But all of this just gives you a general idea on how the size stacks up with the Walther PDP versus all the comparable items on the market right now. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. So let's run it down real quick. Walther PDP next to the 509. Very similar, essentially the same footprint. The grip is the same, but the barrel is just slightly smaller on the 509 than on the Walther. So this is a sub 4-inch barrel. It's essentially the same. You got suppressor sights on this one, and you come optics ready just as you do on the Walther, but no suppressor or co-witnessing type of sights. The 509 looks to be a little slimmer than the Walther PDP. The P10C, almost identical. Again, identical just about in grip frame length. Barrels, the same. Everything looks to be the same. P10C is a little slimmer than the Walther if thickness is important to you. The SK is shorter, grip frame is about the same, but it is a thinner gun and a slightly shorter gun and definitely a heavier gun than the Walther, which I think in a smaller gun like this, I think the weight does play a little bit of a factor in how I like to shoot anyway. I feel like even though this is a smaller gun, the weight of it manages the recoil better than the Walther. I mean, that's just me. I like the way, I like the little bit of an extra weight in my hand with the SK than this, but it still feels good and it doesn't feel bad. I mean, come down to TSS and shoot it. We got it on rent, so come down and rent it. Moving on to the G19. G19 is a little shorter, just a little bit shorter. Grip frame, just a little bit shorter. Looking at thickness, and again, the Walther looks to be a little bit thicker than the Glock 19. So as much as people complain that the G19 is a thick gun, it is not as thick as the Walther. If you're concerned about thickness, G43X, this is going to be smaller everywhere, smaller in length, barrel much smaller, grip frame is a little shorter, thickness you are much thinner on the G43X than on the Walther. If you watch Military Arms channel, he just did a video on how the G19 is pretty much outdated and why wouldn't you carry something like a 43X as opposed to the 19, smaller, lighter, thinner. I think he's right. I'm not a Glock fan, but he makes some great points as to why it's sort of an outdated gun at this point. If you're into that lighter feel, then I mean all these options so far have been thinner than the Walther. And some that are still optics ready, like the 509. Moving on to the small boys. P365. P365, much smaller. Grip frame is significantly smaller. Much smaller of a gun than the Walther. Thickness, again, Walther is much, much thicker. This has been the biggest gun so far today. P365 XL. P365 XL, still smaller, shorter barrel. Grip frame on this, even though it is longer than the 365, is still not as long as the Walther. Now, I don't have large hands. I prefer the XL grip to the 365 grip. It just feels a little better in my hand. The PDP feels good in the hand, but it's a longer grip. So, you know, longer grip frame means harder to conceal, whereas that is the thing that usually footprints out into your shirt. Again, the 365 much thinner than the Walther, and the 365 comes optics ready as the PDP does. The HELLCAT, very popular HELLCAT. This one has the extended mag, much shorter than the PDP. Grip frame is still shorter if you're stacking them up. Grip frame is still much shorter. Let me get a good shot there. Much shorter than the PDP. If thin is the name of the game, Walther is losing. The HELLCAT much thinner. You can get the HELLCAT in an optics ready version as well. So Smith & Wesson SHEILD. This is the bigger one with the laser. Still shorter. Grip frame is getting close to being the same. It's still just a little shorter even with the extended mag. Again, much thinner than the Walther. Last but not least, the all steel CZ75 P01. Still just slightly shorter than the Walther PDP. Now, how much difference is this really gonna make? Probably not much. But it's still just funny to see. Grip frame, just about the same. The Walther just edges it out a little bit in length. If this was exact, they may be the same in grip length. The Walther takes it in thickness yet again, but obviously is lighter than the all steel CZ. A lot of people love the CZs. I love the CZs myself. Can't beat a nice all steel gun. The message for today is, everything we've seen so far, all of these options here, the Walther is the thickest. Every single one has it beat in thickness. So if you're worried about thickness, it's not gonna be the pistol for you. It's not much, but some people are, concerned about how thick a carry gun is. And also, the Walther, with every gun we've seen here, is essentially longer, bigger than every gun we had. And these are most of all of the really popular handguns that people like to carry. If you want the smallest thing you can get with the potentially the highest capacity you can get, then the Walther is not going to give it to you in size. You're going to get it in the capacity where you can get more rounds out of the Walther than some of the other options. When you can get 10 plus rounds out of a thin gun, that's great, because now you're getting 15 rounds out of the Walther, but some of these you're getting more than 10 in a much thinner package. So for example, I'm getting 12 plus 1 rounds out of the P365 XL and the HELLCAT with the extended mag. So yes, I'm losing 3 rounds from the Walther. The Walther's 15, but I'm getting a much smaller package to carry. So maybe the less cumbersome to carry around, the less you're gonna feel this thing carrying it around as far as maybe digging into you. And if you're a little bit of a heavier guy, that could mean the difference of whether you carry well or not, or carry often enough, because you don't want to be uncomfortable carrying a gun that's always constantly digging into you. So those smaller footprint guns like the P365, P365XL, G43Xs, HELLCATs, those sort of small guns that can still be optics ready is, could be a better option for you. Now the Walther PDP, just like we saw in the first video, is a great gun. It shoots great, I like it. I would own one, I would buy that gun. I'm just talking about if you want to carry and you're worried about size, then the Walther PDP might not be, the right way to go for you. as we saw, without taking exact measurements, the Walther PDP looked to be the thickest one out of all of these guns. All right, guys, thanks for watching again. Shout out to TSS for letting me use their range and their rental guns to show the differences with the PDP and some of the other really popular handguns on the market right now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.